And he acts like all of that is a problem. It's being a pro. You're not a college player anymore. Be a pro. The energy of your teammates isn't the problem.
Hold on, Max. I gotta tell you, Will, I gotta question that. And here's the reason why.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from, but what I agree with Max when he says that he was basically throwing Eli Manning under the bus without saying his name. He didn't personalize it, but he held everybody accountable. He talked about what the problems exist with the Giants because they're not winning. Well, at some point in time, if you're in the media capital of the world, you just got paid $95 million. Everybody's looking at you. We know how electric you are. We're looking at Sterling. We're still looking at Sterling Shepard and Ingram and Saquon Barkley. And you're looking at these pieces and you're saying, my God, they can't do anything right. What's going on? So him saying that without mentioning any names, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Okay, two things. Number one, I think he answers that question.
And then I'd like to respond because I have a whole bunch of stuff. I've been taking notes.
Of course. Okay. You got a pen?
Yes, all right.
I got a pen. I've been writing down all the crazy stuff
you need
you're saying.
That's why you interrupted us?
Okay.
Hold on. Go ahead,
I promise you're going to get the rebuttal here. He could have answered that question two ways. Number one, he could have said, yeah, and I think this would have been more correct. We don't have energy problems. Whether or not Eli is the problem, you know what we have? Execution and philosophy problems. It was the problem going into the season. We didn't invest in our offensive line. Not seriously. Nate Solder and a second-round pick aren't investing in the offensive line the way we needed to. We needed to actually protect the quarterback. But secondarily, if you're not going to go the philosophy and execution route, you don't go the throw everybody else under the bus route because it wasn't just Eli. When you say, my energy's right, if everybody acted like me, we'd be winning. But he threw the rest of the team under the bus because he indicted their energy. He blatantly threw Eli under the bus, and then the rest of the team.
Okay, I'd like to respond.
I think that's the problem here.
Okay, let's go ahead, Max. Floor is yours.
Okay, first, what you said about if it's a true, can it be offensive? And it depends on the way you say it. And I don't think Odell said it. In fact, this way, by not using names, by leaving it open to interpretation, including, hey, maybe the coaching staff, whatever, we're just not getting it down the field, and by going to generic kind of energy football stuff, rah-rah stuff, in fact, he framed it in the least, or in among the less offensive ways that you can frame that. So I don't think the truth is offensive here, in fact. Here's more important to me. He's right about the energy, guys. He's right. And when he says things about, and the passion, and when he talks about the way it was in college versus the pros, he's not saying, hey, guys, we need to make it like college. He's being realistic. He's saying, look, I understand there's a difference now. But, and here's the key thing, and this is why he's right to point to the kind of passion. Odell Beckham Jr. is the best receiver in football. I know I can't prove it. I know he dropped the pass in the playoffs. But you talk to football people and say, who's the most talented, who's the best route runner, all those things. Who would you like to have? I think most of them at this point will tell you Odell. We can debate that another day. Why is he as great as he is? Because every facet of his game has been honed through relentless work. And he does that work because he's passionate about the game. So when he sees guys who are lesser than, not just on their natural ability, but because they haven't put in the kind of work with the kind of passion he's put in,
I got it.
He has a right to talk about that.
I got a question. Don't you find it a tad bit suspicious, though, that Odell Beckham Jr. said this after he got his money? But before he got his money, these are not the kind of things that came out of his mouth?
No, I would say, in fact, Stephen A., that's also a good sign. He's saying, I got this money, and now I accept the mantle of leadership. I see things I don't like. Guys, I understand you guys aren't as talented as me or Saquon Barkley, but at least you can put in the work like we do.
Go ahead, Will.
I don't find this leadership, Max. I mean, it's not just that we disagree on whether or not you're okay with them. You find these comments good. I don't think these comments are good for the Giants. I don't think Eli is going to appreciate it. I don't think it's going to make Eli better. I don't think his teammates will appreciate it.
At this juncture,
no matter what they say.
At this juncture, Will, should anybody care what Eli Manning feels?
He is, you know why they should care about what Eli Manning feels? I'm telling you why.
Honest question.
The reason they should, the answer is yes. And the reason they should is because despite the recommendation of many others like myself, they invested in Eli. They tied their future to Eli. They could have drafted Sam Darnold. They could have drafted Josh Rosen. They could have picked the quarterback of their choice. But they didn't because they said, we've got Eli still.
But to use your point, is it possible that that's what's creating whatever division Odell Beckham Jr. tacitly or directly alluded to? Because if you paid Eli Manning this money, and he's clearly done in a lot of people's eyes, that could cause division within that locker room because, like, our future's staked on this guy.
Right.
And he can't get it done anymore. What about that?
This is back to where we started. That could absolutely be true. But does that make it good leadership to say it to Josina on ESPN? I mean, clearly, honestly,
well, you know what,
is that good leadership?
Yes,
Last
I'll
word,
tell
Max.
you why. Because Eli was asked questions and he shirked responsibility. I love Eli Manning. I'm a Giants fan. He won 2 Super Bowls, and it was largely because of his outstanding clutch performances. And when I defended him in the recent past, I believe I was right, even in retrospect. Even if he was in decline, the team around him was no good. And a lot of times those interceptions, not really his fault. But this year, what we see is laid bare. They did invest on the offensive line. Nate Solder, they spent a lot of money. A second-round pick's a high pick. They brought in other veterans. You know, they put real investment. Even their right tackle was a first-round pick.
We got it. And I gave you your point about New York. Now we got to feed him, Max. We got to get to the Texas point right now because we got another. I'm sorry. Got to move on. In the Battle of Texas, the Cowboys travel to Houston to face the Texans on Sunday Night Football. Since 2016, Dallas is 10-2 in primetime games. Almost a rhetorical question. Who wins the game, Will Kane?
Well, you act like you don't know the answer.
No, I don't.
I do think the Cowboys will win the game. I'm just laughing because of your expectations. Let me tell you something. This is like the Chiefs-Jags conversation we had. This is strength against weakness. The Texans are the absolute worst team in the league at protecting their quarterback. They lead the league in sacks, quarterback hits. They're the worst. You know who's really good at getting to the quarterback? The Dallas Cowboys. The war daddy you didn't think existed, Max, Tank Lawrence, once again, leads the league in sacks. He's almost unstoppable, 5.5.
Agreed.
And on the other side, thank you. On the other side, I really think Taco Charlton or Randy Gregory are on the verge of breaking out and showing you how serious they are. And by the way, they also get back, because we're always getting somebody back from suspension, right, Stephen A? They're getting back David Irving.
Glad you know.
Getting back David Irving, a defensive tackle who can put some pressure on the quarterback as well. Now, if those linebackers, and by the way, rookie Leighton Vander Esch has been really good, if they can contain Deshaun Watson, it's got Cowboys written all over it.
This is the who knows who wins and the who cares bowl. I love the fact that Will Kane constantly points to things like New York, right? Like, oh, we think it's so important what happens here. But boy, when it comes to football, people in Texas really think it's all about them. And I get it, Friday Night Lights and all that stuff. It has a big influence on the culture, and the Cowboys are very popular. I'm sure they'll do a good rating. But for the rest of football fans, the Cowboys are generic. The Houston Texans are probably worse than that. And by the way, I would think,
what metric? Just out of curiosity.
I would think,
besides the Max Kellerman
they're
sermon
middle
on the
of
Mount.
the pack. They're 2-2. That's as generic as it gets. They're likely to be 8-8. That's as generic as it gets. They get a little lucky, 9-7. Unlucky, 7-9. You know, I mean, we know what it is.
You know, Max, you need to stop saying that with that smile on your face when your Giants are worse.
By the way, you're right. I'm upset about the Giants. They're less than generic right now. But the Cowboys are just middle. They finally fixed their defense. It's better than average, and their offensive line has regressed due to injury. So their offensive line is no longer as special as it once was. They don't have receivers, but they have a better defense, and they have a great running back. They're just middle of the pack. Now, I think the Texans are going to win, actually. I think the Texans win the game at home. They got a good defense, too. They're due for a win. Bill O'Brien and Deshaun Watson aren't going to lose all season. So this is the kind of game they win against a generic team like the Cowboys at home.
Go ahead, Will.
Got a funny definition.
No, I will say this. I will say this, though. What makes this game very, very interesting, we all know that they want bragging rights in the state of Texas. You all know that the Houston Texans...
It's a one-sided rivalry. It's a one-sided rivalry.
But we all know that to some degree the Houston Texans have an inferiority complex because of the popularity of the Dallas Cowboys. So they'll be hyped for this game, and that means the Dallas Cowboys will have to be up for it, and we don't know whether or not they will be because they're the Dallas Cowboys.
Couple of things. Max, you still have a funny definition of generic. You know, I mean, I should just go around. I'm going to stop by Dwayne Reed and look at all the best sellers and call them generic on the way out. These Apple iPhones, they're selling like hotcakes. But you know what I think? Because I'm Max Kellerman, generic. I don't know where we are. Evan, can we get some research on this? Because I'm pretty sure it came across my screen. 10 highest rated games of the season? I think 9 or... That doesn't make sense. Whatever, 90%. Let's go with that. Our Cowboys games. Absolutely every game, just about, highest rated game this season, guess who they featured? The Dallas Cowboys. Just like every year, just like year in, year out.
We're having Evan check that out.
Get Evan on it. I feel real good about it.
Okay.
Real good.
You feel real good about their popularity without the results?
I feel real good about whether people care about them. What was your title for this, Max? The Who Cares Bowl?
The who knows who wins game in the Who Cares Bowl.
Right. On Sunday night, by the way. Sunday night,
by the way,
featured game,
you're right.
Highest ratings team in the league. Max Kellerman has climbed to the top of the sermon and proclaimed it generic.
Well, people like football. And the Cowboys are a middle-of-the-pack competitive team. And there are things to watch with the Texans. But this is not one of the 3 or 4 best games. And the only reason it is playing in prime time is because the Cowboys have, Stephen A., you can back me up if you feel I'm right here, a delusional fan base. So if you have a delusional fan base for one team that is large but delusional, you get results that the rest of the football world's like, oh, God, who
You've gone from calling them generic to indicting their fans. That's fine. Tell me when Evan comes back with that stack.
They are generic and don't deserve the fan base.
He's all the way in Bristol, so I don't know why you were yelling for him, but go ahead.
Okay. The other thing is this, Stephen A. I truly still believe, despite the popular sentiment and the buy low status of Dak Prescott, that he's going to be all right. And he's going to show up in this game. And that he's going to show himself to be one of the, top 15 quarterbacks in this league. Dak Prescott looked good against the Lions. He can by the way, he can throw a deep ball. Despite popular sentiment, my goodness, can he pinpoint a deep ball. He just needs to do it a little more. Zeke has shown who he is. I'm telling you something. It's going to be all right.
Remember when Dak was in the conversation with Wentz?
Hold on,
I'm going to be all right.
You know what I mean? I got to ask you something. There's somebody. By the way, where in Texas exactly are you from?
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
I'm just say, get to tell the folks on national television because I met Mama Kane. What a lovely, wonderful woman. Hi, Mama Kane. Go ahead, tell where are you from in Texas?
I am from the burgeoning metropolis of Sherman, Texas, 1 hour north of Dallas, Texas, population 30,000.
Okay.
Sup, Bearcats?
Okay, so does it ever vex you that you talk so much about its popularity, the popularity of the Dallas Cowboys, but they have been devoid of any kind of legitimate success for nearly a quarter century?
Does it bother me?
Yes.
Yeah, it bothers me.
You sure?
Of course.
Well, why you always got a smile on your face when you're talking about them? Why? Why? What is there to laugh about, Will Kane, when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys from somebody from Sherman, Texas?
You. I'm laughing at you.
Why?
That's the smile on my face. It's about you, not the Cowboys.
Do you remember, guys? Do you remember when Will used to argue Dak Prescott against Carson Wentz? You don't hear those arguments anymore, guys. And then Jared Goff has come up in the world. Now we see Baker Mayfield. We see Patrick Mahomes. I'm actually a Dak Prescott fan. Will, I agree with you. He is a good. I'm fine with him being my franchise quarterback, but it would be at this moment. You'd have to win a bunch of arguments to get him in the top 15, in the top kind of half of the league. I think he's in the middle of the pack, but as of right now, probably low average at best. I'm not saying you couldn't argue that he's higher than that before. You'd have to win a lot of arguments.
All right, here comes power.
That's right. We got to go. Yeah. That's right. We got to go. Got bills to pay. It's time for another subject. The bad man has been leading a bad offense in Green Bay. Find out why the Packers superstar has something to prove in Detroit. More First Take after the break.